Good afternoon, everybody. You're listening to My Conscious Dad right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I'm your host, Jasmine Urbina, here in the studio today with my dad and co-host, Alex Urbina. And today we are going to be talking about things to consider to deal powerfully during the election. So obviously it's no secret that this year's election is special, and while we aren't going to specifically talk about politics, we do want to talk about how to be powerful and proactive during this time.
Yeah, I think that this is a subject that a lot of us, including myself, are learning how to deal with it in a way that we don't get hooked in, or we don't get into heated debates to try to be right or wrong or prove someone wrong with the people that we care about and the people that we look up to and the people that we respect. And I just want to go over a few things to consider. And so I thought maybe it'd be a good possibility to throw some considerations out there, and maybe you and I can talk about them. How does that sound?
Yeah, I also think I have a little bit of a different point of view as a millennial than you do during traditional elections.
Absolutely, for sure. So the first thing I wrote down was consider that you can give people permission to have their own points of views. Consider that they have their own opinions and their own reasons why they choose to support a specific candidate, especially when it differs from your own. So it really boils down to, can you give yourself permission, and can you give other people permission to be able to think for themselves and rationalize what things mean to them. And you gotta remember, everyone's creating their own value for themselves. Everyone's deciding what's right, what's wrong in their life, what's more effective, who's gonna be a better support for them, or gonna be the champion to bring their issues that they care about to the table and fight for them and all that kind of stuff. And so I guess the first one is just create a space in your life for other people to have their points of views and their opinions, and it doesn't always have to be in alignment with the way that you see it.
I know that in going back to, again, me being a millennial, it's a little bit different for us. In general, yes, everybody individually decides what they're gonna let people have their opinions on, but for us, I think you guys probably take it a lot more seriously since you guys are older and more into it, whereas we think it's kind of funny. I think most of us do, and I know sometimes you laugh about things like that too. And so if you can maybe take it a little bit more like us and not consider it a joke or laugh it off, but be more playful and have a little bit more fun with it, and to not be so serious, then you won't be so judgmental on those people who are voting for the opposite of you, or all these people who you consider to be dumb or bigots or whatever it is word that you associate with who they're voting for. Just have a little bit more fun with it. And
explain to me a little bit more about what you mean. I need you to articulate that a little bit more, especially for Generation X or baby boomers. What do you mean by not taking it so serious and being a little bit more playful? Paint a better picture for me on that.
The way I see it, or the thing that gives me a little bit relief, and I know this to be true for my friends and my siblings and everyone that I discuss this with, is that we kind of have to leave it up to everybody. It's not. I'm not going to be upset if the wrong person, or who I think is the wrong person, gets chosen, because as a group, as a country, we've decided this person as the majority. So I'm not taking it so seriously where I'm going to riot, or I'm going to post on Facebook nasty things to my friends who voted for the other person. I'm not going to take it so seriously. It's not the end of the world. There are other parts in the government that are going to move around and do things to make us okay, whoever wins. What I love about what you're saying there is, what I'm hearing underneath is there's a little inner voice in you saying, trust that everything's going to be okay. Don't let all of your fears come up in this moment and have you think of the worst possible scenario, and trust a little bit more that we have enough people that we've elected to be on the team, on the the team, to be able to fight and stand up and kind of course correct it so that it does go in a direction that we're all going to be okay in the end. Yeah, I guess what I'm as you're saying that, what I realize is we're not afraid, and that might be the difference. Is I don't know, you can call it naive. We don't have experience, and we haven't seen in history in the past when you have a quote unquote wrong person in office or whatever that looks like. It could be us being naive, but it could also be us being a little bit more conscious too.
Absolutely. Sometimes in your naiveness, you don't have any past to compare it to, and so you don't let that past fear come up and get in the way of you allowing yourself to be able to agree to disagree and be on the same page with each other. I like that. The next thing I wrote down is consider that we're not all supposed to think alike. Consider that we're not all going to see eye to eye, that we're not all going to make sense to each other. Your job is to keep remembering that. It's to keep reminding yourself that if we all thought alike, if we all, agreed upon everything, the world would probably be boring. We probably, there wouldn't be no unique individuality of each one of us. And I think that's a gift and a blessing. Remind yourself this, and consistently remind yourself, or train yourself, or teach yourself to, in those moments, realize that we're not going to see everybody, thinking alike. And even though that's part of my vision that I decided 25 years ago, which was to cause a conscious shift in the masses to be able to love each other and care for each other and operate from love and acceptance and all that kind of stuff. That's still my vision. But there's a part of me that, is a small hint of reality that might not ever come, that the day might not ever come to where we're all holding hands and we're singing Kumbaya around all the, different fireplaces and we're all united. It's still a vision of mine, but I'm not so angry and wanting to force people to make it look like that kind of a world right now. I'm allowing myself to shine my own light and use my voice to paint a picture for people or plant seeds that it could look like that if we all align ourselves behind that, starting with myself. I have to align myself there first and be that example.
Yeah, and I'm imagining, as you were explaining that, I imagined a scenario when I was younger, when I was a kid. I took catechism classes at church, and I remember asking the instructor why, we were talking about the story of Adam and Eve, and I remember asking, why would God allow the option to do something bad or create something bad if we're not supposed to do it? And my teacher, I think she was a little bit overwhelmed because I was a kid. And so she kind of laughed it off, and she said, because then everything would be boring. She's like, imagine if everybody did the right thing all the time, there would be no variety, and there would be, I'm sure she didn't say it like that, but she was saying that there would be no variety or no substance. And for people who are very conservative or very religious, there's a lot of things in the Bible that you can refer to that basically tell you not to be, but they tell you, the difference between being right and wrong, and the difference between,
being judgmental.
And being stubborn about those things.
As you were talking about that, what I started, to think a little bit more about was, to accept each other for their differences. And you were talking about, what was it that specifically you were talking about when she said that the world would be boring?
Yeah, there would be no variety, no substance. There wouldn't be conflict. Everything would just be the same all the time.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say. I as you were talking about that and sharing that, I started to think about the possibility that God gave us all free will. And if he gave you free will, he gave me free will. And my free will is different than your free will, and you can choose from your own perceptions, your own experiences, your own wisdom, your own educated guesses, and all that kind of stuff. And I'm doing the same process over here. So what makes you think that I'm going to see it the exact same way you are, and how arrogant of me to think that you're going to see it the exact same way I am? And so what if we just realize that gets to be a life lesson that I can learn right now, rather than going my whole life being in resistance to that and being angry and upset and causing ulcers and cancers within myself because psychologically I'm in resistance to that.
Yeah, I don't think I hear what you're saying, but I think the part that makes you arrogant or makes us arrogant is when we just can't accept that we're not the ones who have to be right. So there's a difference between voicing my opinion and trying to make you believe in my opinion.
Or agreeing with it.
Yeah. And that's the part that's arrogant. Personally, I think.
I get it. The next thing I wrote down is consider practice being unattached to the results. Practice surrendering the need to control the outcome, needing it to be my way or the way that I want it or the way that I think it should be. No matter how much it means to me or how much it matters to me, in that moment, I have to practice being unattached to the results. And then from that place of being unattached, then there's a possibility that can free me up. And from that place of freedom, now I'm freed up in a space that I can now inspire and empower and influence others that are possibly open to hearing and seeing a new possibility. But prior to me being freed up, I just sound like an ignorant, self-righteous person that is trying to force you to see it my way. So I think that if you really want to make a bigger difference when it comes to decisions and trying to enroll the whole team, because I'm going to call us all a whole team, or everyone in the country is a team. We're part of a team, and that's what you were talking about earlier when you said us millennials. We realize that we're kind of part of this team, and we're going to use our voice and use our vote to make, to be able to be a part of the voting system. But we're not taking it that serious. Like, I can't control it, basically, because we're all deciding together, and we're going to have to go based on the majority. We're going to have to accept the results or not. So you're the one that's deciding whether you're in alignment with the team or not. Or are you one individual that just wants to make it look your way, and you're so fixated on that you're the one that ends up paying the price for it because you're stressed out and you're creating these anxiety and animosity and anger and hatred within yourself because it doesn't look like it's going to unfold the way that you want it.
Yeah, I have a friend who doesn't want to vote, and I have another friend who hates that she doesn't want to vote. And every time we're together, it's like, it turns into not even who you're going to vote for. It turns into, you're an idiot just for not voting kind of thing. And I sit there and I'm like, let her not vote then. Just whatever, what's there. So, so it's not like,
but that's
so
her right. Her right. She gets to not vote because that's her right.
Right. So it's sometimes, at least for me, I don't know if it's a millennial thing or whatever, but at least for me and my group of friends, there's 3 categories. You can vote for Trump, you can vote for Hillary, or you can not vote, and that's it. And it's funny because there's a lot of people, especially young people, falling into that I'm not going to vote category. And I don't know if that's true for people who are older too, but I find that category is filling up quickly.
No, it's there. For adults, it's there where you have people that are choosing that neither one of them represent what they're about and what their beliefs are and what the way that they want the world to head down that direction under their leadership, and so they decided, I'm just not going to vote. But we still get to honor that. We still get to honor that. That's your vote. If you don't want to cast it or put it in, then that's your choice. And so we have to rely on all the others that have decided to use their vote to be part of the decision making. And
so if you could consider this, if you're a parent and your son or daughter is deciding that they don't want to vote, is there a way to inspire them without making them vote for who you want to vote, or inspire them even to just vote at all?
I think that, by opening up a conversation filled with questions and no judgments, I think that you can help people come to their own conclusion about what's valuable to them and what's not. So I think as a parent, sitting down with your son or daughter and saying, hey, tonight we're going to have dinner, we're just going to discuss politics, and let's just have it be a discussion of being interested in different possibilities without agreeing or disagreeing or making each other bad and wrong because that's how we see it. We're just going to open up a free, loving space where we can just share and try to make sense of things. And I'm going to be in the process with you, and I'm going to be trying to still figure stuff out. I'm not closed-minded. I'm always open. And so I think if you open up that space, you'll realize that there will be some powerful breakthroughs for people when we're operating in that space. I think the problem is that most people have already decided, and they're stuck and they're fixated on one way of thinking, and they're immovable. They're not even open to any other possibilities. So that's where I think you get the frustration and the people kind of making judgments towards each other because, we're judging. We're basically saying that because you see it like that, like you said, you're an idiot or you're stupid, and all of a sudden now all the the nastiness comes out in us that's not really a good reflection of who we really are deep inside. Deep down inside, we're loving, caring, compassionate, and accepting beings, balls of light, of love and energy. And it's this ego that we let get in the way and make those kinds of judgments and hatred and throwing those kinds of daggers and arrows at each other. That's not becoming of us.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, the reason why we're like this is, one, I think some of it's natural, but I think a lot of it is environmental too. We learn it from our parents, and we see our parents telling us, you're so dumb if you don't vote. So if we see one of our friends not voting, we're going to relay the message.
Yeah, it's what you've been instilled, and it's what you've been told. And so now if you're unconscious and you're an automatic pilot, you're now going to turn to your friend and go, what? You're not voting? And then you're going to now put and project all of your fears and all of your stuff onto them, not realizing that in their home, they have been grown up where parents saying, hey, it's your choice and you can choose whatever you want. And so now you got friends that were influenced and empowered to think a different way, and so now they're projecting their stuff onto you. That kind of seems a little bit, I don't know, it's kind of heartbreaking to think about it like that. Like, if you've grown up in a home and an environment where your parents have told you that no matter what choice you make, you're still accepted and loved and appreciated and respected, and then now you're going into your friends to Denny's and whatever, and you're hanging out and we're talking about it and you share your opinion. Now you got all 8 of your friends all harping down on you and making you bad and wrong because you're choosing to not vote. Yeah,
and it's also, I mean, that's true for anything, not just voting.
No, absolutely.
You teach your kids to be one way so much that it doesn't leave any possibilities or opportunities for anything else, and when they go into the real world, it's not like that. And I don't know, it sounds like you're not really setting your kid up to win.
Sounds good. The next one I wrote down was, consider trusting in a higher power, consider trusting in a higher purpose, perhaps, or a higher reasoning for things to unfold the way that they do or the way that they are, and to consider that there's a possibility that whatever decision and the way that it unfolds, it could cause a greater version of what you're looking for. Sometimes in my life, I've wanted something to unfold a certain way that I thought it needed to be, and it never came, and it unfolded a whole different way. And I remember being, in resistance to it and, complaining about it. And in the long run, I look back and I go, that was exactly what I needed to happen for it to unfold that way, so it can get to the point where that I had envisioned, but I wasn't conscious enough and evolved enough to be able to trust the process. In that moment, I was just stubborn and wanted it to look my way, and I needed to have that experience to trust that, hey, if you have enough of those experiences, you start to realize that in life, things are going to fold the way that they do, possibly for the greater. And you might not even realize it right now. And here you are spending all your anger and all this negative energy resisting something that could unfold in a whole, different way.
Yeah, I like that you were saying to trust in something else, because the way I see it, as I was saying earlier, is I really do trust that after all these years, my ancestors, all of our ancestors have created a system and put together a government and put people where they belong, to have this country run no matter who's sitting in the office.
That's right.
And that's what I believe in, and that's what I trust in, that we're going to be okay. And again, it comes from not being afraid of that, just because I don't know if that was instilled in me. I don't know if I know growing up we were never the type of people to who were rebellious or anything. So I think maybe it was instilled in us to respect everybody else, and I think that's what is making me feel okay about this election.
And I think also too, I'm not saying this to toot my own horn, but I'm sure you're watching to see how your parents are responding too. Like, if we're really like freaked out and worried, and even in your life as you were growing up as a child, watching us react to life, if we're panicking all the time and operating out of fear and we're all stressed out, I'm sure that's probably how you're going to design yourself to be unconsciously and not even realize it. But if you have parents that, are kind of easygoing and laid back, they're trying to make an impact or influence it in a more powerful way, that rather than being in resistance to it and bringing all the nastiness to it, then you're going to learn how to be calm and cool and collect in those moments, and surrender now your trust into that everything's going to be okay. It's going to unfold the way that it's supposed to, and let's be okay with that rather than not being okay with it.
Yeah, like I was saying earlier, as you know, us millennials, we were having fun with this election, and we think, you know, it's fun and it's different, obviously, but it has to do with back at home. We have a lot of fun with this election, just at dinner time and us all hanging out as a family talking about it. And this is if. I know this election is different and special, but I think for us, it's opened up a lot more discussion of politics in our house, which we never in the past have ever really discussed. So it's really for our family, I think it's a really good thing.
Yeah, and again, it's perspective. You can either see it as a negative thing or you can see it as a positive thing. I'm choosing to see it as a blessing. I'm choosing to see it as being grateful for that it now has us engaged as a family to talk about something that we've never really been engaged before. And you'll see some articles where they're talking about, because this is so different, it is here for a reason, and maybe it's here to teach us something. For me, this election here this year is here to teach me about me and how that I need to learn how to accept, and everything that I'm writing down, this is what I need to hear myself say this. So if you're listening in, you're tuning in, you're hearing me talk about these kinds of considerations, I've actually wrote this for me, because these are things that I need to remind myself so that I can be powerful and be freed up to be able to allow things to unfold and free me up so that I can empower, inspire my beliefs, and hopefully cause a shift in consciousness in people.
Yeah, we have to take a break. Stay tuned for more of My Conscious Dad right here on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS.